I think just waiting for it. Yes, we are live. It's showtime. Oh man, what a start to the day already down under here in Australia. We're done one live stream now, right on to the next. Today we have none other than Dr. Darren Martin, the CEO and founder of the Global Company Culture Association, who will be speaking at our summit here in Perth, West Australia on March 18th. Not physically live, but live. We'll be live streaming you in at the event, which is going to be awesome to bring the founder of the Global Company Culture Association. And I'll let you share more about your own background and story that to share with our audiences down here in Australia, especially here in Perth, about this creating an evolution at work. And really excited to have you there, but I wanted to preempt it and get you live here to share with some everyone else so they can start to see what this whole creating an evolution at work and how do we create this company of owners. How do we do all that? Because we talk a lot about it, and everyone says, here in Australia, we have a lot of a growth mindset, and it's one of the things that I'm certainly challenging down here. A growth mindset's great, but when it's on its own, it's dangerous because it needs to be on the back of evolution. Evolution needs to be the natural state of our life and our business, and then we can have growth phases within that. But when we just have a growth mindset, and we just get doing more and more and more of what we're already doing for the people we're already doing it for. And if the market shifts or changes or generations change and we want to find the best talent for our business to serve our clients, if we're not evolving and we're not evolving the way we work, the way we lead, we are putting ourselves at risk and in danger. So having someone like yourself, Darren, to share with us, mate, welcome to Australia and anywhere else in the world who's watching, I guess. But so glad to catch up with you again. You're like my brother from another cultural mother. So great to have you here.
Hey, it's great being on, Dave. And, I always look forward to spending time with you. And, to your point, here's the reality. Everything has changed. The way we shop, the way we date, the way we, do finances, the way we communicate. Everything has changed. Everything has changed. The one thing that hasn't changed is the way we think about work. And we're still doing old school. Now, the whole pandemic of late has sort of forced a different mindset because we've known for a long time. I mean, a bunch of Stanford studies, have shown that working from home is just as effective as going into the office. And yet for a long time, companies bristled against that. How are you going to work from home? This is crazy. How are we
going to make sure that you are working?
Yeah. I did a radio show at the beginning of the whole thing, and this old guy gets on there, and I call it old manism, but he said, well, how are the bosses going to know that they're working? And in my brain, Dave, I'm going, if that's your question is the problem, right? The fact that you're framing it up that way is the problem. This is not working on a chain gang, and we got to have the bosses, sort of cracking the whip to make sure people are doing what they're supposed to be doing. So we have needed this, as you know, because you and I have been talking about this for a long time. We've needed a shift in the way we think about work. I mean, when you look at the reality, 85% of people either hate or dislike their job. Real statistic, 85% of people, okay? Now, if only 15% of people in the world had electricity or running water, or, only 15% of planes actually made it to their destination, would you get on a plane? Of course you wouldn't. And yet somehow people schlep themselves to work every day, miserable, and there hasn't been a lot of attention to how do we go about fixing it, because, hey, you get a paycheck, you should be satisfied with that.
Right.
And those days are just over. I mean, it is, boy, it can't get here any quicker, this evolution at work that you and I have been kind of dreaming up together and, creating, because we're both really big proponents of the shift that needs to take place.
Oh, 100%. And if anything else, and I've talked about this numerous times, and I know you have, is like, whilst with great empathy for people who are challenged by all the stuff that's happening and stuff, this being forced and thrust upon us, people being forced to go to their rooms and work from home and all this sort of stuff really made people realize, like, oh crap, it works.
Yeah.
It works for some, but it doesn't work for others still, and I understand that. Like, and there's certain roles, as you would know, Darren, that working from home might not be. Maybe we just haven't found a way yet. But if you're a barista, I'm going to work from home today.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's like that might be a bit of a challenge. Unless, hey, you have, I'm just going to be firing up my coffee machine at my house, and if you want one of our coffees, just sling by, and I'll, let's move the coffee machines home. Like people take their laptops home. Here, take the company laptop home. Well, here, take the company coffee machine home. But like, there's certain roles. I get it. Like, it's not naive to this, but what we've, and whether everyone has to start working from home now or not, like, is what will happen is people go, not allowed to work from home. Everybody works from home. And it's like, well, it's either we do this or it's that. Well, what if it was like this sense of distributed working where, whether it's some people work from home, some don't, or some days I work from home, some days I don't, or I can work from anywhere. I mean, Starbucks was created as the third place that's not work or home where people can seek refuge because it has Wi-Fi and everything. So there's a whole bunch of cafes or places or spaces now where you can go work that's not the office. And I think this is hopefully we don't do a knee-jerk reaction from one way to the other. It's what's the best of both, and how can we make sure everybody wins in this? Like, that to me is the evolution. It's not, well, we'll stop doing this because we're going to start doing that now. Like that, I think that is wrong as well.
Well, clearly, there are a lot of people who can't work from home. Although I think the at-home barista idea, you might be onto something, Dave. We should build a business model around this, but put a drive-through out, your bedroom window. But
Yeah,
it's more about just the whole concept of work. So much of work was predicated on a factory clock punching system where you arrive at 8, you leave at 5. I mean, office hours work, at least you know what the start and stop time is.
yeah,
Although a long time ago, work invaded home.
yeah,
So you better respond to that email at 7 o'clock on a Saturday night, because if not,
yep,
hey, that was really important. You didn't, you leave the office, you don't leave the office at home anymore. You take it with you.
yep.
And yet we still have this crazy concept that if you want to go to your kid's soccer game at 3 o'clock on a Thursday afternoon, what are you talking
Mm,
about? This is work hours, right?
yeah,
So we've had this sort of shift in the way we in where work sort of invades itself, and yet at the same time we haven't been commiserate just in terms of the way we live our lives, which is quite normal. I mean,
yeah,
when you have to cram everything into Saturday and Sunday to get done, you work all week, and then you've got to go do these things, which, by the way, by and large, historically have not been open. You can't go to the dentist on a Saturday. You can't do your banking on a Saturday. I mean, these days you can, but for a long time, that stuff has sort of forced itself, and it's really about, I always tell people I pay for outcomes, not activity. I don't care how many hours you worked. I care what
yeah,
did you produce? What did you come
yeah,
up with? And I remember when I was at I had a client that had refineries, all over the country, and I would go to the refineries, and they had one particular job. It was coke cutting. Now, Dave, this is the worst job. I mean, this is the bottom of the barrel. The product, when you have squeezed everything out of this product that you could possibly squeeze out of it, then it ends up in coke, kind of think asphalt, but more
yeah,
solid, kind of
yeah.
chunks. And the
Gunk.
coke cutters would go in there, they pull it down, and then they would chop this stuff, and they drop it into these rail cars. And the point was, if they took 8 hours to do that, they would go home in 8 hours. If they could do it in 5 hours, they went home after 5 hours, and they got paid the same. It was
Right.
kind of cut and go, as they called it. So,
Yep.
you know, how many times have you seen somebody sort of twiddling their thumbs? They got the major stuff they needed done. They
Mm,
did they closed payroll. They did the thing. They got that stuff
yeah.
taken care of, and yet they're still waiting on this magical clock to kind of tick to a certain time so they can walk out the door. So I mean, it's how we work, it's the kind of time of work. Dave, when are you're most productive? What time of day are you most productive?
Me, usually early in the morning or very late at night.
Okay, now those are not work hours, right? but
No.
you're at your most productive. I'm the same way.
Yeah.
More
Yeah.
on the early in the morning side, but
Yeah.
you know, my best days are when I get up at 4 a.m. and I just crush it, and then by
Yeah.
8 o'clock I'm going, wow, I've gotten a whole day's work done in 3-4 hours,
Yeah.
and it's just very fulfilling. But if you go
Yep.
into the office at 4 o'clock, are they going to let you walk out at 1 o'clock in the afternoon saying, "Hey, I got here at 4"? No, that's not going to
No,
happen.
no, no, no. Yeah.
Yeah. So conceptually, everything has to change because ultimately we can work from anywhere. Work has changed. Think
Yeah.
about the amount of work that a person in 2021 is able to produce versus a person in 1950.
Yeah.
They didn't have Excel. They didn't have, Word. They didn't have the internet. If you research something, you had to go down to the library and dig into the books and write the little note cards by hand and do all of that. So we're producing a lot more stuff,
Yeah.
and yet it's more of a beat down, and that's ultimately what I think has to change. Work's got to be fun again. Work has to be fulfilling,
Yeah.
powerful, something you enjoy doing. If we're going to get people really invested, it's about it being meaningful and about having something that they're personally profiting from, not just kind of punching
Yeah.
it to the company, right?
And I think that's important word there is profit, because it's not just about profit, but they're getting something back in terms of profiting. Means getting more from what you put in, right? And so if you look at that, they need to get that. And I think one of the things you addressed, Darren, I think is really powerful that we should just skip over this whole, where this line that used to exist between work and life, right? So at 8 o'clock I punch in, 5 o'clock I punch out, I go back to life. And then in the morning I wake up and I'm life until 8 o'clock and I punch in, then I'm at work. Right. And so this is why people were always looking for a work-life balance, because they saw them as two separate things. But in today's world, we have, everyone's this work-life integration or whatever you want to call it, where people are on the train in the morning doing their emails and they are whatever late at night doing something. And I think that if we can start to, from an evolution at work point of view, understand that company culture itself, and you and I talked about this way back 2 years ago almost now, when we started, talking about the work that you guys were doing, is that it's almost like there's no such thing as just company culture now. It's a blend of all this life and business and work. But the part that's missing, which you've talked about, is this sense of meaning of the work that we're doing. If we want people to, we all want our lives to be more meaningful, right? But we need to give them work that's meaningful, and so that they can see that it's a blend of it. But when it's not, it's like, shh, I got to turn this on, got to turn this off, and sit there in misery for my 8 hours, and then go home and hopefully try and find some joy in my life.
So there are two phrases, Dave, that if I never hear them again in my life, I'll be a very happy camper. The first one is a result over the past year. There's actually a great Samuel Jackson meme from Pulp Fiction. He's got this very menacing look, and
Yeah.
it says,
Hey, one more time.
Say new normal one more time," right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And work-life balance is the same to me. It's just kind of, nails on a chalkboard, because
Yeah.
the implication is that you're not living when you're working. And that's a
Yeah.
big part of the problem, that we think you check your brain, you go off, how do people, okay, one of these is Monday morning and one of these is Friday afternoon. All right. I'm going to
Yeah.
pantomime now for you, and you see if you can figure out which one is which.
Okay. The first one was Monday morning, and that one's Friday afternoon.
Everybody knows this because, I mean, it's just so stereotypical. I mean, there's a reason we have a saying, "Thank God it's Friday. I can finally get the heck out of here."
Yep.
Since when has meaningful work been reduced to drudgery, to something that we have to balance with real life? There's we could get into a big history lesson. I mean, obviously, when you were a serf, work wasn't a whole bowl of cherries.
Yeah.
But there have also been times where people worked and they loved it. They enjoyed it. They were productive. They were producing
Yeah.
something. They were proud of what they created. And today we have so disconnected the workforce from what the company's trying to accomplish, what the outcomes are. I mean, how many people have you asked, what's your company's mission statement? What is this company all about? I guarantee you 90% of them cannot answer that question. They're just like, oh, I don't know. I just
Yeah.
go do my thing, right?
Mm.
And that's where I think there's huge opportunity. Companies that really get it, where people really do dance into work on a Monday morning. I know that sounds absurd, but there are companies where people love showing up there. I remember
Yeah.
hearing about a company that would do over the holidays, they would do a special party for people who wanted to come in and work. It was an online retail, and it was a heavy phone, retail kind of business.
Mm.
And people would say, hey, I don't have anywhere to go on this holiday. I'm by myself. I'd just as soon come and be with my coworkers. And it ended up being one of their biggest earning days because
Wow.
people just wanted to be there.
Yeah.
That's when you've built a community. That's when you've built something that people are excited about. And it wasn't, I mean, it wasn't Zappos. They weren't, but basically they were selling shoes or something like that. It was very
Yeah.
basic. It wasn't super sexy. It wasn't super cool, but it was about the being a part of something. I
Yeah.
always say people want three things when they go to work. They want to be going, they want to be growing, and they want to be glowing. Okay.
Right.
They've got to figure, they've got to believe that they're going somewhere. There's a promotion
Mm.
in sight. I've got a career path. I can see a path forward, but they also have to be growing. How many people, if you were to ask them, in your time of working here at our company, have you become a better person? Have you leveled up? Have you advanced yourself in some way? If the
Yeah.
answer to that is as a result of working here, no. Okay.
No.
That's not good. But if the answer is, yeah, I really have. I've got this mentor. I've learned these things. I've developed these skills. I'm more confident in myself,
Yeah.
I've been going to this weekly classes on how to, do public speaking, even though it has nothing to do with my job. Then those people are much more fulfilled, and then they've got to be glowing. How, walk around an
Yeah.
office. What do people look like? What's their countenance? How are they? Are they excited? Are they happy? Are they joyful? Or are they just kind of doom and gloom? By the way, I just saw the great Pete Havel pop up on our deal here. Pete?
Yeah.
Dave?
No. No. But thanks
Okay,
for chiming
okay.
in, Pete.
Yeah, he wrote a book called The Arsonist in the Office, and that thing has
Wow.
just been gangbusters. Uh, okay, what a great comment. Becoming invested in the company means a lot more than stock options. I'll take both,
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
agree with Pete that uh, when people talk about it as my company, that's a big
Yeah.
difference from the company.
Yeah.
This is the place where I live, where I work, where I kind of fulfill my passion. That's a big difference.
Yeah, right. So that might be a wonderful segue into this sense of creating a company and owners. But I just want to quickly. So Pete's book was called Arsonist in the Office. Is that what it was?
Yeah, arsonist in the office. Yeah, great
So I'm
read.
going to take a stab at that. The arsonist is actually the leader,
Mm,
because I use this wonderful example. Is like this is what happens in organizations. Is most leaders want to become the firefighters, right? It's like the
hmm
Munchausen syndrome, the guy who lit the fires to put him out to be the hero. So the leader's going, oh, there's a they create a problem. They go and they light a match and they light a fire there, and they're trying to put this. Oh, look, another fire. And while they're doing that, light a match and put another fire. And because they always want to be seen as the superhero, solving all the problems for people. And I think sometimes the
If
biggest arsonist in the organization is actually the leader, because they're the ones lighting the fires because they're not doing their job properly.
if you have a lot of firefighters in your company and you pride yourself on that, your company is jacked up. Okay, because if you're
Yeah,
constantly having to put out fires, that
yeah,
means you're not a well-oiled machine.
no,
You're saving the day. It's this
that's right. It's the
last
superhero
minute
syndrome.
rush in. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
It's a superhero
Yeah.
syndrome. Like, but they actually create the fire so they can be seen as the hero for putting the fire out.
Dave, I've been in so many companies, I'm sure you have as well, where they pride themselves on that. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
oh, our team, oh my goodness, they saved the day. You know, they were able to do this thing. And, you know, a well-functioning company should have very few fires. I mean,
Yeah.
if the firefighters in your community are the busiest people in town, right?
Yeah.
Then
There's
something's
something
broken.
wrong.
Why are we having so many fires in our
Yeah.
town? You
Yeah.
want the firefighters to be out getting cats out of trees and, you know,
Yeah.
trimming
Doing
hedges and,
calendars.
you know, cooking barbecue in the, you know, in the back lot or whatnot.
Yeah.
But you don't want them just running around. And yet, you know, companies are notorious for being kind of broken from the inside. So,
Yeah.
Dave, I think a new day is dawning. I know this sounded very dire and sort of depressing for some people, but I think we're on the verge of figuring this thing out, creating what I call a humanocracy.
Mm.
You know, we've had meritocracy, we've had all of these ocracies just in terms of the way
Yeah.
we think about work. Would that we had more meritocracies versus, you know, bureaucracies and all of the
Yeah.
other ocracies.
Yeah.
But when we get into a humanocracy, we start to talk about that work is for the people, by the people. And, you know,
Yeah.
people are the ones buying the products. People are the ones producing the products. I haven't seen a machine yet purchase a product, although those days are coming, I guess, when
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
the copier orders its own ink toner, right? Or the
Well,
refrigerator
the
says,
fridges today, the fridges today can already order food from the supermarket. It knows whether you when you're running low on milk. Some of the new Args coated fridges and
do,
stuff.
do,
So it's
do you
there,
have one of
but
those fridges? Do you have one of those
no,
fridges, Dave?
we don't. But I'm aware of them. Yeah,
Okay, when I finally
I've
get
got
to come
someone
to
who already.
Australia, I'm going to
Yeah, I've
check
got
it
someone who
out and
already
make
spend money.
sure.
I don't need my fridge spending money too, right? I've got somebody else who spends money already. The
Yeah, but you know, I mean, the reality is business is people.
yeah,
And
100%.
it's who's running things and how much discretionary effort do most people put in work? Very little. If the company is not engaged in me, I'm not engaged in the company.
Right.
And it's like a sports team where you haven't won in forever. The coach is a beat down, and
Mm.
you just don't think it's ever going to happen. Well, you're ready to get through the practice and head home and go do what you want to do.
Mm.
So the more work becomes a haven, this beautiful, and you can say this is myopic and that, this is never going to happen. But the more work becomes a really beautiful place where people want to be, where they like the people they work with. There are no jerks at work, as evidently there are none at Netflix. They have a "we don't hire super intelligent jerks,"
Yeah. Yeah.
profit policy. So as work kind of evolves into this much more mature, human-centered thing, then all of a sudden the game is different. And it
Yeah.
starts to be something where people are investing themselves. They're working those extra hours. The classic stories of someone who stays overtime. Actually, the person who not only saved, but really created Google was just one such person. They had this big problem. They were trying to solve how do we monetize Google? And so they were working on, I wouldn't call this at the time, I'm sure, but Google AdWords. Like, the
Yeah.
problem was, Dave, when you searched for a certain phrase, it came back with something that had nothing to do with that, right? I mean, the algorithm was completely broken. And so Larry Page comes into the break room, posts the ads. Here's what the person searched. Here's what they showed up. And he wrote something like, "This sucks" on there. Now, Larry Page had a great relationship and cadence with his staff. They used to play hockey out on the concrete during the breaks.
Yeah.
And, he had built quite a company. But they were competing with this billion-dollar company. This one guy comes in. It's not even his job. This isn't part of his job description. He sees that.
Mm.
drinking his cup of coffee at the break. He's like, So he takes that and he goes home and he starts working on it. He comes back on the weekend and he works on it some more. He comes back and, goes home and has Sunday dinner with his family. He comes back and he works till like 5 or 6 in the morning, and he breaks it and he puts it together and he slides it under Larry Page's door and goes home and goes to sleep. Right.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden he gets a call saying, "Oh my God, you've solved it. This is what we've been waiting for." And the company, I can't even remember the name. You certainly wouldn't know the name, but that was much wealthier, had much more possibility of breaking that code before Google, gone. And overnight, Google started to churn and be able to monetize themselves. And, the rest obviously is history. That's discretionary effort. That's somebody who says, I'm excited about solving problems. I'm excited about, doing something to help this company. Versus so many people that I've dealt with over the, being in and out of Fortune, 500, 150, kind of companies, people are just like, what's the company done for me? Why would I do something for the company?
Yeah. But this is like when you go back to Pete's comment about becoming invested in the company means a lot more than stock options. Well, I'm a firm believer that if you want your people to have a vested interest in the greater good of the company, then you need to be invested in your people. Like, are you invested in your people? And because we want them, you're talking about just having a vested in. That guy had a vested interest in the success of Google. He wanted Google to succeed. He saw a problem, which wasn't even in his job description, perhaps. But because they invest in their people, they believe in their people, they, that he felt he was in a place, because a lot of people go, well, that's not my job. Oh, I don't want to do that. Or if they put an idea for it, hey, like, leave it to the people who are designed to do this. We would shut down people's creativity, imagination, intuition, curiosity, everything like that. We'd shut it all down because that's not your job. Leave that to the people whose job that is. Yep. And we stifle this untapped talent or innovation or creativity that's in there because we don't have we don't invest in our people, and then they don't have a vested interest in our business.
So work is a symbiotic relationship between the company, the leadership, and the team members. I've quit calling them employees for the most part, with the team members, right?
Yep.
And it's like any relationship. If you just take, and that's it, the other person is not likely to be very invested in the relationship. When you give and take, and it's a beautiful dance between, the partners, then it's a much more fulfilling, happy, invested kind of relationship. And that's the way work is. I've heard so many, old folk, let's just say, of which, Dave, let's be honest, I kind of am one, all right, but I'm not going to put myself in this category. But
you and I are perennials, mate. We're not old folk. We are youthful thinkers.
You're much younger than I am, Dave Clare.
I don't know about
Dave
that.
Clare. But I've heard so many people say, "Well, you get a paycheck. What else do you expect? What else do you want?"
Yeah.
When did work get reduced down to that? But that's been the deal for the last many years. It's been, you come to work, I give you money for it, and that's it. Don't expect all that stuff I was talking about earlier about going, growing, and glowing. Hey, I used to come to work and I hated it, but we did it. We liked it because we got a paycheck.
That mindset's caused the problem. When organizations implement that mindset, they have caused their own problem, because what they're saying is, I'm trading time for money. You're trading time for money. So show up. You need to be here for this amount of time. It doesn't say you need to produce this much. It's saying, because your paycheck is representative on the number of hours that you're here. So this is why.
Dave, in a relationship, when I trade time for money, there's a word for that profession, right?
Yes.
I mean, if it's, I'm going to give you some money and you're going to act like you like me, right? Or you're going to show me some attention. That's the oldest profession, in the world. And I'm not talking about sales.
No.
So
there's three H's. There's hawkers, something else, and it was one of my clients back in Canada that said that the three oldest professions all begin with H. It was hawkers, hookers, and something else. I can't remember what the third one was. He lost me at hookers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now I have to know. Hold on. Let me get my phone. I'm going to Google that real quick, Dave.
You can at least Google that with the three oldest
Hawkers,
professions.
hookers. I have to know.
Yeah,
How
and
many
I
people
just
are on
remember
this right now Googling that?
Yeah. But yeah, because they run the hawk shop in Canada, so it was like so people who hawk things, like so it was hawking,
Right. Sure.
And then hawking, hooking, and something else was there was three. He said the three oldest professions all begin with H, and he went boom, boom, boom. After he said hookers, I didn't pay attention anymore. I was thinking, okay, what's going on? But anyway, that aside, but it is the point is that we've created this problem in organizations where we're trading time for money, and then why we measure people, and getting back to that whole, right now we should be measuring them on results and outcomes, but we measure them on the hours they put in, not what they put into the hours. And this is why people were afraid to have people work from home, right? People are afraid to have them work from home because I don't know what they're doing. But if they're at the office, at least I know they're here. Because on my mind's I need to know that they're here. So presenteeism is worse than absenteeism in most organizations. Just because your people are at work busy, like I said, in 4 hours I've done my work, and you know what, I've got to pretend to make myself shuffling papers, make myself look busy. Otherwise, they're not going to need me here for the extra 4 hours. Because they're not paying me on the results, they're paying me for the hours I put in here. And if I can get all my shit done in 4 hours, then I'll just find something else to do. And then you know what? We fill ourselves up with all this little menial stuff. And then when some bigger opportunity comes, goes, oh, I can't do that. I'm so busy because I can't fit it into my day because we filled our day with crap. Yet the business owner, to your point, why do most business owners go into the office really early? They get in there, 6 a.m. and most people don't show up to work till 8:30. Why do they get in there early?
That's the make hay time, right? They can get something done.
Like they get all the stuff done, right? So they're saying when nobody's around, I get more work done. Yet if I send people home and I'm afraid that they're going to work from home, that they're not going to get work done.
Well, and back to that point, the reality is that's just not true. People that work from home give you 3 weeks more time than people who work in the office, because it's, oh man, okay, dinner's not quite ready yet. I'm going to go ahead. We've got, the Uber Eats is on the way, but I've got a couple, got 45 more minutes. I'm just going to keep working away on this project. Versus if they were at the office, they'd be thinking, it's clock. That's my permission to go. I'm out. So yeah.
And you think that people don't have to do the commute? They don't have to commute to work if they're working from home is a possibility. So that extra half an hour that half an hour to an hour that some people have to drive to get to work, they're actually going to go and start working. We were here in lockdown. We were in lockdown last week, and so we couldn't go anywhere. And I saved 2 hours a day on average of going to commute to see my clients. I just obviously did like this over Zoom, and I freed up 2 hours. So I got an extra day back that whole week.
Right.
Because 8 hours at least of commuting time, I would have. No, I would listen to my Audible and I'd, do my development and stuff like that, make some calls. But I had a whole extra day.
Yeah, it does. And, particularly in Dallas during non-COVID times with traffic, I think a 30-minute, counting 15 minutes one way, 15 minutes back, is a minimal commute. I mean, I know people who have an hour each way. 2 hours a day is just, clocked in the car kind of thing. So, and here's the beauty of it. For a lot of professions, you don't have to be physically present. You just don't. Now, some of the problems when we talk about an evolution of work, some of the things that we have to think about is how do we still create camaraderie? How do we create that collaboration, that brainstorming, those encounters that happen in over lunch or in the break room or at the, at the coffee pot? How do you create those? And I've known people. I had a buddy of mine that had a virtual team. He'd never met a single one of them. Had never met them in person.
Yeah.
And yet they were some of his closest friends on the planet because he spent every day. And this was, this was way ahead of the curve. This is probably, 9 years ago. I'm talking that they were doing very, I'm sure, glitchy sort of phone calls and things with his team, around the world.
Yeah.
So relationships are not just about in person, but you got to create that dynamic. I love the creativity that has come out of this time, where people are doing happy hours, where they're sending, food to their team, or they're all watching a movie, together in the middle of the day, doing things that kind of say, hey, we're going to get together. We're going to hang out. We're going to spend some time together, connecting. And, particularly now, and this is only going to get better when we're talking about holograms. I mean, there's a day coming, Dave, where we'll be having this conversation and we'll be in the same room together, right? Sitting across the table, only we won't. You'll be in the land down under, and I'll be in the center of the universe, Dallas, Texas. That was kind of a joke.
1977, Star Wars. Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope. You're my only hope. They had holograms already of Princess Leia shoving the thing into R2-D2. Like it's here we are. What's that? 44 years later, and I guarantee you, I agree with you. I've said this will be like keynotes. It'll be all the great people in Dallas will get together because they're able to, and Dave Clare will be a hologram on the stage there. And I'll be as if I'm right there. I might be standing right here in my studio, and I see all you wonderful people there, and I'm a hologram on your stage.
Yeah, I'm doing one of those, not hologram, but I'm doing a keynote on Thursday for a fantastic hospital group, children's hospital group, out of Florida. Actually, I'll give a shout out, NCHS. I'm so excited to be with them because the work they're doing is incredibly important. But I'm going to be in a studio, and I'm going to be doing this event. By the way, Dave, they are using the Sync, the little teeny book about leaving the world better than you found it. They're using that to launch their team in 2021. And we've got this whole setup. I'm going to have a screen where I can see who's present. It's a couple hundred of their top execs. And that gap is going to close more and more and more, where it is very live and it's very present. I mean, right now, when you get on some of these Zoom calls and other things, although it has dramatically improved particularly over COVID, but you've seen all the classic video, things on YouTube of just the cutting out and like I'm talking. And then you're like, wait, what? So one other thing.
Is this thing on? Can you? Is this thing on?
Is this thing on? By the way, I'm completely intrigued by your backdrop there. I've got like a crazy screaming hawk, and some books or whatever, but you've got like this cool thing back there, Dave.
I'll just take you out of pictures so everyone can see the whole. So so this is my the media wall, actually. So when I'm having events and people get their photos in front of it and stuff like that, but it's got all my all our circle leadership models and everything like that. So it's just a branded wall which sits here in the studio at Homemade. So it's the evolution of work. Evolution of work. I've got to evolve. I got to I'm just working. I have my own studio here in the house now. I've got my own office and everything like that, but a full blown studio, soundproof room, and all the TVs which are in front of me right here. And
that's awesome. A true Canadian / Australian spelling organizational with an S instead of a Z.
Well, that's how it's supposed to be spelled.
You need to come to America where we speak the real English, right?
Yeah, well, we can afford an extra vowel, so that's why we put a U in color. Whereas America's a bit tight, they can COLOR. You guys can't afford a all the vowels that we can afford. We play Wheel of Fortune. We'll buy a vowel, please, in America, because we can't afford one.
Exactly. And I never can get the gray thing. I don't know. It's so confusing. But
so talk to me about this concept of a company of owners, because there's a lot of people see Gary Vee will talk about you shouldn't ask your people to think like you or do anything like that, because they don't own the company. You do. You're there to serve them, which you and I both agree that we're there to help our people be the best, and because our clients deserve the best, so we need our team be the best, and so on. But what this concept of a company of owners, because I know a lot of people, the clients I deal with here, is I just wish my team would think like I do. And I said, well, they're not going to think 100% like you do because you own the company. They don't. But can we create a mindset of an ownership, sort of in terms of mindset of the business? So, I know you've done a lot of work. We've talked a lot about evolution of work, but I'd really like to get your insights on this whole concept of the company of owners.
Yeah, for me, that whole concept was born out of a conversation I had with the CEO of a $20 billion oil and gas company that I had actually a 10-year running contract with them, where I was going to their sites and doing all sorts of stuff, working with the executive team on down to people close to the valve. And I said, Dave, you need to fire your employees. And he's like, what are you talking about, Martin? I can't fire all my employees. I said, yep, you need to fire every single one of them. I said, you don't want employees. You want people who act like owners. And I could visually see, Dave, the little light bulb, ding, 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 going on over his head, right? Which triggered me. And I thought, wow, that struck a nerve with this executive, And here's the irony. Everybody in the company, they were all owners because they all had stock as part of their,
Right.
package, right? I used to love to have these conversations, but I'd say, well, yeah, the shareholders, that's all the company cares about is the shareholders. I'm like, well, don't you have stock? Well, yeah. Well, you're a shareholder. Why are you not
Yeah.
acting like one? But I think it's such a powerful idea of just what does it look like when people at the company actually act like they own it. I went into an Italian restaurant a couple of weeks ago. I was picking up food for myself and Elise. Elise had a very busy day. So I stop in, I go up to the bar, I order this food, and I said, hey, Elise had requested this, very specific, by the way, but penne pasta was with a vodka sauce, right? So I said, hey, do you have a penne pasta with vodka sauce that you can make? And the guy said, no, we don't have that on the menu. But he said, I can put vodka sauce pretty much on anything. Is that what you'd like? And I said, sure. Something about the way he carried himself and the way he
Wow.
spoke. Now, normally we want people saying we. It's a team. We're
Yeah.
all in this together. But it left me with this confidence. When he said, I can, I will, I thought, this guy's on it. It's like when somebody says, I've got your back, Dave. This is going
Yes.
to be done, right? And beyond the shadow of a doubt that it's going to happen.
Yeah.
So a little bit later, I'm just watching this guy and the way he carries himself and all of this. And so he comes over and I said, hey, is this your place? And he said, no, this isn't my place. He said, but I said, how long have you worked here? He said, I've worked here a couple of years. I love it. It's a great company. I love being a part of this place. The fact that he fooled me by his behavior is exactly what I'm talking about.
Right.
Because the owner, I don't know this for a fact, but I would assume wasn't there. Maybe he hadn't been there in a month. Maybe he'd been off in the Bahamas on vacation. But he had people that were walking through that door and treating the company as if it was their own. And that were treating the company as if they were the ones that were, benefiting. And hopefully they were, because if they're not, then, that engagement's not going to last very long. So that's the true essence of a company of owners, is when people look at their place of work as a vital part of who they are, and they're invested in
Yeah.
it. And that only happens, as we've said, multiple times in this broadcast, when the company's invested in them,
Yeah.
when they're rewarded, when they're encouraged, when they're trained, when they're given authority, right? If
Yep.
this bartender had said, I don't know if I can do that. I know we have vodka sauce. I know we have penne pasta, but I got to call the owner and make sure that it's okay for me to do that, right? he would have had that kind of ownership mentality. So somebody had taught him along the way that, look, do whatever you want to make the customer happy, and he truly did it. And
Yeah.
that's the kind of company that really is running on all cylinders.
Yeah, so now that's really cool. Well, I just quickly wrote some on the whiteboard here while you said that. And this is the birth of a Clarism. Okay, so you're witnessing the birth of a Clarism here. You've inspired me. Okay. Yeah, so you know my little quirky quotes. But, because I talk about like empowerment. Like empowerment was such a buzzword back in the 80s and 90s because nobody really do it, right? But, that person that you're talking about was empowered, right? So they were empowered by their leader to make smart decisions to serve our clients and to provide the best because our clients deserve the best. So
Yes.
when you empower when you've empowered your people, they feel I'm powered to make decisions.
Wow. Okay, let's. Well, you can't show it to us. It's probably off camera, but
No, I just wrote the word
so,
"I'm powered" on the whiteboard there. So, like when you
okay.
empower people to make smarter decisions, they feel I'm powered to make a decision. So, because you said with the I, and that was really triggered it for me. It's like I can do that, and it's because I know you agree with you. Like we talk about the we and all that sort of stuff, but when someone can turn to me in a business and go, "I can do that," that means they're powered to be able to make that decision. And the challenge that a lot of
Dave,
organizations have is we don't power them to make those decisions.
I'm stealing that. First of all, that's really good. I'm powered, right? I love
Yeah,
that.
yeah. From empowered to unpowered.
Yeah, and I love that you have Clarisms. My wonderful wife, Elise, who you refer to affectionately as Renee Zellweger for some odd reason, but has
It just
Eliseisms.
looks like
She,
her.
she, she, she actually.
She had me at hello too, so I like it.
I gotcha. I think her Instagram is one of her Instagrams is like at eliseism.com or whatever it is.
Okay.
I guess you don't have a .com technically. So I'm going to come up with dare-isms from now on. I've got to join the fray. But
Martinism is
I'm
made.
powered. That's exactly right. And I remember I was at a very large defense contractor. I had a 1.5-year contract where I was going, 1 week out of the month, working on their culture, some other things. And I remember somebody there telling me that at some point the company, muckety mucks as I call them, but and not this particular branch, but the larger, entity, they walked in, they looked at the team and they said, "You're empowered. Now go be empowered." And that was it. Like it's like when you walk into the Soviet Union the day after communism ends and say, "You can go make money now. Go be a capitalist. This is awesome." And for 70 years, all they've done is, live off the state and that whole
They're like,
thing. So
is he
I'm,
serious? Can we actually do that?
I don't actually know how to do it. I
How
remember
do
a
we
friend
do
telling
that?
me, I remember a friend telling me about coming upon this potato seller. She had one, this is a real story. She had one potato. And he said, "I'd like to buy the potato." "Well, I can't sell that to you." "Why not?" "Well, it's my last potato. And if I sell it to you, then I'll have to go home. My workday will be over." And he's like, "No, you go get more potatoes," right? This is the way this works. You sell them out and you go get some more and come back. But I'm powered. I love that. I think you nailed it. That really is the crux of the ownership mentality, the evolution at work. It's about empowering people in a way that then they feel I'm powered. This is
Yeah.
the company is fueling me. The company is driving and helping
Yeah.
me succeed.
Yeah. And like to your three things, I've always had three things as well. Like to me, I think there's three things that people want. If you look at human beings, you talk about the three things so mine are the three things that people want is they want something to believe in. Right. So they want a
Yeah.
purpose to the work doing. I want to know that my work matters.
Yes.
So I want something to believe in.
Yeah.
Then the second thing I want is someone who believes in me. I want a leader who
Wow.
empowers me to make smart decisions. So I
Yeah.
know that my boss believes in me, or my coach, my leader, believes in me. And then the third thing I want is someone that I can believe in, and that is a leader who has an inspiring vision of the world that's far greater than all of us combined. So when I have
Sure.
something to believe in, someone who believes in me, and someone I can believe in, like that, I think if anyone listening or watching this, run that acid test by yourself. Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah.
So if I have a purpose that engages me, so that's the purpose is the something to believe in, a set of values that will empower me to make smarter decisions. So not just the corporate rhetoric bullshit values that we see around the world, but the unique thinking that here's how we think around here, and if I apply this thinking to that, I can make these decisions. So we're helping our team to make smarter decisions. And then I have a leader who believes in me in that sense, and then I can believe in that leader because they have a vision far greater than all of us combined. Well, this is what we're going to have, and this is part of, what I call the cultural framework of the organization. So this is why purpose,
Yeah.
values, vision all matter, because if you build a culture that addresses those three things, so we talk about the culture, company culture association. Well, if your culture gives them an engaging purpose, a powerful set of guiding values, and an inspiring vision, and we wrap that all up in a mission that we're all working together to build an organization that brings all that to life. Like, this is how we bring everybody on this massive journey together, and that's where they get that sense of ownership. Like, I'm a part of something, and they believe in me. Because does anyone jump out of bed and go, "I can't wait to be disrespected at work today. I can't wait to, do a job in the office today." Nobody gets out of bed
Sure.
thinking like that or feeling like that. But we've treated them, that many companies have treated them like that, and we wonder why they behave like that. And then also we go, "Hey, now you're empowered. Off you go." And you're going, "Am I really?"
Yeah. Yeah.
Sure. And hey, what does that mean? What does that look like? And then we wonder why empowerment never worked.
What you've just described is a self-perpetuating ecosystem, right?
Yeah.
It can sustain itself because it's a loop.
Yeah.
I believe in what the company's doing. The company believes in me. The leaders believe in me, and we, just go on this dance together.
Yeah.
That works, and it's
Yeah.
not that hard, Dave. I mean,
No.
come on, this is not that hard.
That's the irony of it all, isn't it? And how many studies do we have to show where purpose-driven organizations outperform only purely profit-driven ones, and all the stats about what's happening and coming down the pipeline and everything like that, what it's going to look like in the future, and what the next generations are looking for. Here's all the stuff, but people are still stuck in their bureaucratic, barely meritocracy, but the bureaucracy exists. And then where, like, I agree with you, Humanocracy, and I don't know if you've read the book Humanocracy that's out right now.
I have not. They stole that from me. What is going on here?
Well, the funny thing is, actually, so the circle of organizational leadership that I use here, there was always what was that? The Zappos used to use their ocracy, whatever it was that they had in the way they set their business up. But the circle of organizational leadership here, this to me is like this is it's how do we create human-centered organizations where our purpose is there to serve our customers in the middle of everything that we do, and everyone has a direct line of sight to that through the lens of our values, and how do we make more human, bring the human element back into our organizations. And the book is just speaking everything that I've talked about for the last 5 years, which is fantastic. And it's a great book. And then when you use it, I'm thinking, oh, they've stolen your title.
Yeah. So there's a new world dawning. I'm excited about it. I really am. I want to see a world where people love going to work. And by going, I don't mean necessarily even getting in a car, but I mean, they love sitting down. I love my work. I love producing. I love writing. I love creating. I love coming up with new ideas. I love getting on stage. I love everything about it because I'm passionate about it. I know you do as well. It's not drudgery. It's not a beat down. And I feel beyond fortunate and blessed that that's my reality.
Yeah.
That, I believe, should be everybody's reality. And I don't care if they're working in a factory, churning out stuff. All of those days are quickly going by because machines are going to do a lot of that literal heavy lifting, right?
Yeah.
So, but I just think there's a new world that's going to emerge where we get back to the sense of accomplishment. We get back to the sense of doing something meaningful, and that it pays big dividends, and it's got great rewards with it.
Yeah.
In order to do that, we have got to break out of our mindset. We've got to break out of our habits. We've got to break out of our patterns. John Paul Getty said, in times of rapid change, okay, now I can't think of a better setup. Is this it? Is this a time of rapid change? We've never seen a time
Would
of
be,
more rapid change, right? In times
that
of
would be
rapid
that would
change,
be a low description. It's like rapid is only oh,
that's
rapid
that's
is the
a understatement, right? But in
yeah,
times of rapid change, experience could be your worst enemy. How we've
yes,
always done things. This is
yep,
the way you do this, right? And if we can break free of those fetters, I think we can reimagine, we can reinvent, we can evolutionize, whatever word we want to use, this thing we call work, and come to a place where people really are joyful and empowered and,
yeah,
doing meaningful stuff,
yeah,
creating meaning and producing and, dreaming up and all of that. I remember seeing years ago a video of what to me is one of the quintessential companies, and partly because of this, not to mention they've been one of the top toy manufacturer in the world. I don't mean a lot of toys, but their toy in particular, Legos,
yeah,
which is just a perennial favorite, right? I mean, Legos is, as far as I know, never go out of style with kids.
no,
But the factory was this, they're churning out these precision blocks, which is boom, 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 and they're just pouring out of this thing. And there's one guy walking around with a clipboard, right? They had so automated everything that it was this beautiful scene of, the syncopation of machinery doing what it's best at. And then you say, well, yeah, okay, but where were the people? The people are sitting in the other room dreaming up, let's do a T-Rex with a tutu, and an umbrella dancing on, a skyscraper. I mean, they're
yeah,
dreaming up, they're doing the fun stuff, the stuff that
yeah,
we were really made to do.
yeah,
And as we get towards more automation, we get towards AI, AR machines, producing things and 3D printing and all of that. I think it's the dawn of a new era where we get back to do the stuff that we're really great at, which is creating, being really creative and dreaming.
yeah. Well, that's do you know Duncan Wardle?
I don't.
Well, so he was the former VP of Creativity and Innovation for Disney. He now has his
Ah,
own IDA sort of thing, and he goes around teaching people
oh
about being
yeah,
creative. And what he says, and I've used the words already, but he said that what human beings are required for into the future is creativity, imagination, intuition, and curiosity, because AI can't do those things. We can
right.
automate machines, processing Legos, but to create that cool, amazing, and he said whether they can or will be able to in the future is hard to tell. But right now, in the next 10, it's in the unforeseeable future, it's unlikely that that they can do that. So who's doing the imagination? Who's doing the creativity? We need to free
Right.
our people up, not to automate things to remove people, but to free them up to do the work that humans must do.
Yeah.
And this is how we make
Yeah.
more human organizations, is making the work that humans must do, which requires that creativity, the innovation, that thinking, the freedom of thought. And so we need to build organizations where people are free to think, where they can take responsibility for their work and be free to think. And that's the key to creativity, which is the key to innovation. And so if you want to have this
Yeah.
evolution at work, you'll need to have a company of owners mindset to create the evolution at work. Because all that evolution of your work and the stuff that you're going to do to stay relevant in the hearts and minds of people is going to come from people. But if we cap it, push it, squash it, and don't allow it out, you're denying that future of your organization, because you're not tapping into what's really important. You're not letting that guy knock on the door at Google and walk into the tea room while the meeting's going on and going, oh shit, I can solve that.
Hmm. Yeah. There are billion-dollar ideas at your company. I'm talking to people who are watching
Yep.
right now. Billion-dollar ideas
Mm.
that may never see the light of day. I
Yep.
mean, I love telling the story about Richard Montanez, who worked at a Frito-Lay plant.
Yeah.
He was the janitor.
Oh,
And the CEO of the company came on a video and said, "Hey, I want everybody here to act like an owner, act like you're the owner, like this is your place." And I'm sure Monez looked around at his coworkers and they were all going, "Oh yeah, multi-million dollar salary guy sits up in an ivory tower. You want me to act like an owner? Sure, whatever." But Monez took it to heart. And when he saw one day the Cheetos coming off the line with none of the powder on it, no cheese, it was just the chip, right?
yeah.
He scooped them up, he took them home and started experimenting with them. And he's putting cayenne pepper on them and all these different, combinations. Garlic, lemon. He's just fooling around in the kitchen. And he's tasting it. It's like, wow, that's really, really good. So he calls up the CEO. Now, catch this. The janitor from one of the plants calls the CEO of this multi-billion-dollar actually company
Yeah.
and says, "I have an idea I want to share with you." And fortunately, the executive assistant had a forethought to put him through. And he talks to him. And he says, "Hey, I'd be glad to meet with you when I come out." So he comes out. Here comes Richard Montanez, school dropout,
Yeah.
first generation immigrant, kind of broken English, comes in, brings this product, shares it with them, and they loved it. They were crazy about it. And in fact, it turned into the Flaming Hot series for
All right.
Frito-Lay, Flaming Hot Cheetos. It
Yeah.
opened up an entire new demographic of people who were going, "I want something kind of spicy," right?
Yeah.
And was a billions of dollars, not a billion, but billions of dollars of revenue for the company over time. Rich Montanez, high school, not school dropout. I'm not sure he even
Yeah.
made it to high school.
Yeah.
Became an executive vice president with that company. Okay,
Wow.
that's the power of an executive saying and meaning, "Act like an owner." I want you to act like an owner, and that's why I'm
Yeah.
so just committed to that as an idea, as just a singular idea. How do you create this company of owners? And there's a real life example of somebody who could have sat on the shelf. What if he hadn't heard that speech?
Yeah.
What if he had just, found those, taken them home and baked up a bunch, but kept them for himself and said, "CEO doesn't want to hear from me. He doesn't, he's not interested in, little Richard Montanez." But the fact that the guy had said, "I want you to do this," he took it hard, and it made a huge difference in the life of the company. There are a
That
bunch of
leader.
Richard Montanezes out there that aren't
Yeah.
being listened to or that
Well,
aren't being inspired.
that leader had to make sure that they honored their word, because he could have gone and said, "Oh, if I take these home, they might think I'm stealing them."
Right. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
taking product from the workplace to go and try to, and it goes like, "What do you mean you took stuff home?" Like that? And all of a sudden, we would have shot down the whole possibility of that ever happening, depending on how, even if it was a dumb idea, even if it
Yeah.
was the stupidest idea and it made no sense whatsoever, we should be rewarding and creating a safe culture where people can express that, like, "Hey, love the thought process. Have another go at things." Because if they didn't love it, what would have happened?
So,
And I agree, like, but we got to. The whole thing is make sure that the team feel that it's safe to go and do that.
yeah, yeah, and that they have that authority, right?
Yeah, the
And that
empowered
license.
to do stupid things and try things and to have a go, because it might have been just a crap idea and didn't work, but it could have led on to another idea that did.
How many times though have you heard, "Let me check with my manager"?
Ugh.
Like
Every
what?
time you walk into any store where you're trying to ask something that is not in the script, well, I'll have to check
Right.
with my manager. Right.
Yeah. Because they've been so beat down, and you know, contrast the Montana story with I was at a company where a guy came up with a multi-million dollar. It was either a savings or a profit center type thing, right? CEO comes out in front of his peers, hands him this big check. "Thank you. This is awesome." That guy never came up with another idea ever. in the history of the company. You know why? Because the peers around him called him a suck up, round noser, whoa, look at you, mister.
Yeah.
Now, you can say, well, wow, he worked with a sucky team members kind of thing. But I think that's on the company, because the company created this dog eat dog world. Instead of coming out and saying, hey, Jimmy Bob came up with this amazing idea, and it's benefited the whole team. We understand that the whole team had some say in this, even though it wasn't your idea, but this is a team and we're rewarding all of you. He's getting some extra special, but everybody wins for this. And I can't wait to hear from him, and had gone around and pointed at him and called him by name and said, I bet you've got an idea like that in you. They could have created a completely different environment instead of this competitive one that was, we've got to drag you down. It's that what I call the bucket of crabs. Kim Leek chiming in. How many check themselves out now at the grocery? Yes, Kim, look, I worked for 4 years at a grocery store, went from Sacker to stock crew to produce. I worked every department basically in that. And for a long time, I've envisioned where you pull up with your cart and you just pull right out and go to your car, and bring your own bags and sack it up and go home. That technology actually exists today, but we're just not
Amazon
using
Go.
it.
That's Amazon
Instead,
Go now.
Yeah, that's true. A lot of times we just order groceries online. But instead, what they did was they created a machine where you could do the work. You could check yourself out while the machine is nagging you the entire time, because maybe you're trying to steal something. Like, please make sure you place it on the bagging area. In the bagging area. I'm like, oh, okay. You want me to do my own checkout, but you're going to nag me and fuss at me the whole time and act like I'm trying to rip something off when I could have just pushed the whole thing out of the door, Anyway, yes, Kim, you're spot on. It's going to get here.
Right. So, and just to wrap up on your last comments there, and another sort of Clarism, if you wish, is that most people or businesses are developing rules for their people or spending more time developing rules for the people than they are developing their people. Right. So, like you said, like there are rules for that frontline person. You can only do this and this thing and like that and that. But outside of that, you have to get your super out. They're not powered to make those decisions, and all that sort of stuff. So, like I think this whole concept, like rules are important in the sense of a structure, like a frame. I like to say, give your people a framework to work with, not something that confines them. Because if we, at the best, if they're always thinking for the best interest of our clients, if our purpose is, which is a client-centric purpose, and they're going, well, hang on, will it help us passionately solve this problem for those people? Then they should be able to do whatever it needs to do to make that happen, and empowered to make that decision.
Yeah, but Dave, that's I think it's in my book. I think it's in my book, Unbeat Your Company. I talk about policy over people.
Yeah.
And it is nails on a chalkboard to me anytime someone says, well, our policy is, right? And the most simple classic example of this is years ago in the chicken place. And they had this 3-piece meat combination, of 2 breasts and a leg or whatever. And it was at XYZ price. And I said, like, hey, instead of the 2 breasts and a leg, can I get 3 wings? Okay. Now, dollar for dollar, the breast meat is the most expensive piece of meat. The wing is one of the least expensive.
Yeah.
And the guy points up to the policy, stated on the board, no substitutions. He said, no, we're not allowed to make substitutions. And I'm thinking, if the owner were here, the owner would jump at the chance for that, right? The very owner himself or herself, or their self, who came up with this no substitutions policy, would have gotten the economics on it. that owner didn't want people going, oh, it's a 3-wing special, give me 3 chicken breasts, because we're going to lose money on the deal.
Correct.
But we don't pay people to think anymore, and we don't give them permission to think. We just want them to follow the policy. And that's a really bad way to company. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You're paid to work.
Yeah.
And I said to them, like, I said, that's the way it's always been. Now, here's the way it is in the future. You're paid to think, and while you're here, if you get some work done, that'd be awesome.
Yes. Yes. Oh, God bless you. May those
So, like
days,
I said,
you know,
all my
from your
clients,
mouth
like,
to God's ears.
yeah, like I said,
absolutely.
So I said to my clients, like, this is the way it used to be. You're paid to work, not to think. Now it should be you're paid to think, and while you're here, if you get some work done, that'd be awesome. Like if we could shift that, because we need that part of the human, the heart. We need the heart and brain engaged, and that's where that sense of ownership comes. Because the owner's heart and brain are engaged in their business. If we can get the team's, heart and brain engaged at that same level, that's when you have a company of owners. When they're going, hang on, I care so deeply about our clients and their ability to serve them. My leadership cares so much about me, allows me to do what I need to do. Can I do something wrong? No, I just maybe could have been done better or different. Sure. Like an actor delivering their lines, the director goes, cut. Hang on, if you're going to do it again, hey, let's talk about that. Could you deliver a little bit more of this and bring in a little bit more of that? Okay, take 2, go again.
Dave,
and if we're our team, like a director does an actor, imagine what results we get for our clients.
Dave, you know the best way to come up with a great idea?
Let somebody else do it?
That too. Have a lot of ideas, right?
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, that's the way it works. You want to have a great idea, you got to have a lot of ideas. This whole, the whole frame, and by the way, I'm so beyond honored that you're a part of the Global Company Culture Association. But I was sitting in my chair, one of those 4 o'clock in the morning wake ups, 4 or 5 in the morning. And I thought, company culture is the biggest thing going right now. If you don't care about it, you better care about it. And I thought, there's no gathering place for that. And I started, I went to the great God Google and started searching, and nothing existed. And that's when I came up with the idea. And then the fact that not only when you saw it, you got it, but you wanted to be a part of it, 100%. Said to me, hey, we're on to something, right? And it's been wonky. We had a start, and then kind of COVID hit, and it's been kind of here and there or whatever. But part of my commitment for 2021 is that we're gonna take this thing full-fledged, because it's such a great opportunity to get like-minded thought leaders and people together to really drive this evolution. And I'm just so happy that you're okay, what's your official title? You're the godfather of the Pacific Rim? Is that what it is? You're the mob boss of the Pacific Rim?
I'm a godfather. I'm the very first appointed ambassador, well, not just for this region, but the ambassador of the Global Company Culture Association for the Pacific region, or Pacific Rim region, which pretty much half the freaking world, apparently, as it turns out in the end.
which when you told me that's what you wanted, I was like, Dave, that sounds great. And you said, Darren, do you know how big that is we're talking about? And I was like, no, I'm not sure I do. I mean, I grew up overseas, but no. So I Googled it, and I'm like, Dave owns the world. That's what's going on here. So it could have gone to a nicer guy, though.
Yeah, it's pretty much everywhere but America, right? It's everywhere except for the
yeah, everywhere but America.
Yeah.
But dude, we are truly going to drive this evolution at work. Actually, the association's got a little book out called Evolution at Work, right?
Yep.
an evolution at work, and it's a very accessible. It's a probably I talk about a humanocracy in there, and it will take you like 12 minutes to read, but it kind of maps out that these are the things that have to happen if we're really going to get there with this. And it goes back to some of what we've talked about on this, like outcomes over activity. Quit counting the clock, quit measuring what time somebody showed up and when they left. What are they accomplishing? And I just couldn't think of a better person to be partnering with on that. And so you're awesome, dude.
Mate,
Wait,
you just
did
gave
you
me
come up? Oh, okay. Now, Dave, I hope, and I'm going to go on record as saying that that's never happened
no,
in
two
one
Clarisms in one session. This is the
broadcast.
first ever. Okay, so you ready for this?
Yeah.
So if people are too focused on when people are punching in and out rather than what they're punching out during the day.
That's good.
But what you're punching out, like how much are we punching out today, not what we're punching in or out today.
Right. Yeah.
Okay? Like this is what it's about. It's about the outcomes, and it's the productivity, and it's and if somebody wants to go to work or stay at home at 6 a.m. and work till like 7:30 before the kids get up, and then have breakfast with their kids to 9, take them to school, then get back in and do some work stuff, have some lunch, go catch up with the girls for a coffee or chat or whatever, and they want to do whatever, and then they want to go pick their kids up for school, and then when the kids go to bed, they want to put in another half an hour, and they're achieving all the results. Why would you give a shit?
We were not wired physiologically, biorhythm. We're not wired for an 8-hour workday with a 30-minute lunch in between. We're just not.
No, that was for the war only. That was designed to get people into factories. That's why schools existed, to educate people for factory work, to produce shit for back in the war. And we've never changed the system since.
It's time. I'm done. Let's change it. Why are we working off an old broken paradigm? It's time for a new paradigm.
Yeah, it's about time we got a new paradigms. Okay. That's my 20 cents worth.
Okay, good. 2 Clarisms. Bam!
2 Clarisms in one shot. Unbelievable. I'll have them posted up. Don't you worry, and I'll make sure I tag you in them. Right. Darren, thank you so much for your time today. We're well over time, but you and I could probably fill a whole day just talking back and forth about this and still not cover enough of what's important in creating an evolution at work and how to get this mindset around a company of owners. But Matt, I'm so looking forward to March 18th, 9 a.m. West Australian time, which I think is about, 7 p.m. on the 17th, Dallas Center of the Universe time, for you to actually give us your full keynote at the Business Evolution Summit. So all the people attending that are going to be in for an absolute treat when you're going to go into great depth. I'm not even going to it's all you, and you're going to share all this really cool stuff that you're working on, the Global Company Culture Association. So really looking forward to that. And anybody watching this in Perth, Australia, if you're at the summit, you're going to get to see Darren live. And whether you have the hawk in the background, mate, or whatever, it doesn't matter. We're going to have you live on stage, telecast from the center of the universe here in West Australia to the other center, the opposing center of the universe on the other side of the planet. It's going to be awesome, mate. I'm really looking forward to you going even further, deeper into depth on things we can do to create an evolution at work and how to bring that company of owners mindset to every business here in West Australia. So thank you, my brother from another cultural mother, for your time today. Really appreciate it, man. And I know you just got back from a trip, and then even for the next one, you're going to be flying out that next night to somewhere else. So I know your time is precious, and that you're sharing it with us is really, really meaningful to me. So thank you.
Honored to be on with you anytime. Thanks, Dave.
Okay, and to all the people who tuned in, thank you guys for your time and attention today. Hopefully you got a lot of takeaways from today. If you want to leave any comments, I'm sure that Darren and or myself will glad to get back to you if you have any other thoughts. Pete, Kim, everyone who shared some comments, thank you so much for that. And we really look forward to, with this, you and I can't do this alone, right?
No, yeah.
No, it's going to take all of us to create this evolution at work. It's going to take every single leader, owner, you name it, manager, whatever, to help do this. And every employee, same thing, it doesn't matter, people, every single person has a role to play in creating this evolution at work so we can have a lot more enjoyable, because we spend 50% of our waking hours working.
Yeah.
you know, and that's a big chunk of our life, and a lot of our life purpose comes from our work. So, guys, we got a lot of work to do. Until then, see you guys.